What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to the Pathways to Success podcast. Today in studio, I have Trillian Small, and Trillian is a relationship intelligence strategist, an author, a speaker, and of course, a John Maxwell leadership coach. Trillian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Julian. I'm doing very well, excited to be here. It's going to be a great conversation. How are you?
I think so too. I'm doing very well, and thank you for coming to the show. And shout out to Gazelle, who created this connection between you and myself.
Yes, thank you, Gazelle.
Yes,
this man is phenomenal. You are awesome as well.
Well, Trillian, you know, a lot of times when people see success, they sort of see the end result. Like, you've done all these amazing things, but just so our audience can kind of get to know you, like, tell us a little bit more about your story and your journey to become who you are today.
It's so funny. I just had this conversation with some friends recently.
Yeah.
So I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I told them, I was like, I was actually a counselor before I became a counselor. People would come to me and talk about their problems. And I just discovered I do this very well. I listen very well. I am able to help people with their problems very well. Not because of what I learned in a book, but because I went through the process on my own. So I grew up, you know, witnessing domestic violence, really struggling with my own emotional and mental state. And so becoming a counselor, so that's my profession, working with individuals to help them increase and improve their relationship and emotional intelligence. That didn't become a career until after I got my education. I was already doing it. It was my passion. Yeah.
Very interesting. So like, how early on in life did you start to realize that this was sort of becoming a calling for you?
I learned in high school.
In high school?
I learned in high school that that was my calling, because I would have so many young women come up to me with relationship issues. And they're like, well, how do I handle this? I like this guy, but he's treating me this way, or, you know, so-and-so said this about me. How do I deal with this? And early on, even though I was young, I realized I had so much wisdom that I could add to people's lives. And I didn't take it for granted, and so I wanted to nurture it and not just let it be an experience, the knowledge that I have from experience, but I wanted to take that to the next level and say, yes, I have knowledge from experience, but I now also have academic credentials to back what I already knew internally.
I love it. I love it. And what is the current iteration of Trillian Small today? Because like you're obviously an author. You have 4 books, and we'll talk about that here later. But you're a speaker. You're a coach. You're also a lecturer at the University of Texas at Dallas. Like, what do you do today?
I do a lot, just like you, but every single thing that I do, and I like to tell people, regardless of what I'm doing, it all centers around the exact same common thread, which is increasing your emotional intelligence and changing the way that you think, shifting your mindset. So whether I'm writing books, whether I'm speaking, whether I am working with my students, my thought is always, how can I add value to them that will help them to change the way they view themselves, the way they view other people, or the way they think about themselves or think about other people. That's just my passion. Like, I'm a hard person. Regardless of what I'm doing, I want to help you become a better version of you. And ultimately, when I help you become a better version of you, I help you have better relationships with other people. And that's my passion. That's my goal. And anything that I do, that's always my end goal.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about some of these things that we wanted to discuss that I know you're also very passionate about, and really your expertise, which is mental and emotional health. Start us off with that.
So the reason that mental and emotional health is so crucial, because nothing happens through us until it happens to us.
Nothing happens
through us
until it happens
to us. And so what that means, and John Maxwell says that, and what he means by that is, if you are saying, I want to do this, this, and this, so if you want to be an excellent leader, if you want to be, you know, a thought leader that helps people with their finances, if you want to be a fitness trainer that helps people lose weight, nothing happens through you, so that means you can't impact those people's lives until it happens to you.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense? So it's, don't show me how to do it, don't tell me how to do it, show me. Show me how you did it. And so that's what I do with my career. I don't want to just tell you how to do it. I want to show you how to do it. And it starts with the individual. And I talk a lot about self-leadership. It's so important that we deal with ourselves first. That's why I'm so big on dealing with yourself first before you go touch, because whatever it's just like we're seed planters. Whatever seed I plant, I expect it to grow. So if I plant a seed of blessing and healing and encouragement, I'm not going to be surprised when I see that grow up.
Right.
Right? But if I was to
Perfect timing.
Well, excuse me, guys.
Yeah.
It just came out, just slipped out. If I was to plant a seed of discord and anger and bitterness, guess what's going to grow up?
That same thing, kind of
The
the sowing
exact
and
same
reaping
thing.
kind of principle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's whatever's inside of me, I'm going to pour into you,
Yeah.
directly or indirectly. And so regardless, that's why it's so important to deal with you first, your mental and emotional health. And in the society, I think we're getting a little bit better with this whole stigma thing with mental health. But that's why it's so crucial, because the things, even in our careers, people say, well, that's just something I deal with behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Whatever's happening behind closed doors is going to come out, whether you want it to or not. It's like sweeping stuff under the rug.
Yeah.
You can sweep it under the rug all you want, but if you don't, but once you get behind closed doors and you pull that rug up, if you don't pull that rug up and start to sweep things out, eventually you're going to walk over it and you're going to stumble every single time.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go away. It's still there.
Right.
And it affects you personally, it affects you relationally, it affects you in your career. Emotional and mental health, I believe, is the foundation. Might be biased because that's my career.
Sure, yeah.
But I even if I wasn't in this field, I can still see how individuals' mental and emotional health impacts everything that they do.
Yeah. So I really like this idea that you shared of like, you can't really kind of help others until you sort of experience it yourself. And, you know, do you have a story about kind of like how you've dealt with it in the past and kind of how now that has equipped you to help others?
Absolutely.
Can you go into that a little bit?
And so it's funny because I was that person who I valued people coming to talk to me, but I didn't want to go talk to anybody about my stuff.
Your own stuff.
Because I was always the strong one. I was always the one that had to be the solution bearer. I had to be the secret bearer. I had to be the one that I was the superwoman. So therefore I couldn't have my own vulnerabilities, because if I had a moment of weakness, well, who was going to help you?
Sure.
And it wasn't until my PhD program where I was trying to decide what my dissertation topic was going to be. And I realized if I'm going to spend 3 years on a paper, I really want it to be something that I care about. And in that moment, I decided I'm going to write a paper about myself. I'm going to figure out myself. I'm going to solve my own problems. And so I did. I chose a topic that had to do with helping people heal from their past childhood pains, helping them overcome it, so that they can have healthy relationships. And that was the most painful experience. Wow. Because I had to hold up my own mirror and say, you're actually not perfect. Did you know that? You actually have flaws. Did you know that? You're actually not as strong as you thought you were. And I had to get to the point where I was okay with saying, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be perfect. And in that moment, I realized as the counselor, I need help. I was great at giving other people advice, but I wasn't so good at taking my own advice. And so I had to get my own counselor. So I did. I got a counselor, worked with him for about a year. And that was all during the same process of writing my dissertation. So research was helping me to see myself like, this is me. I didn't know this was me. And it wasn't until it was placed right in front of me and I realized the things that you're trying to help people do, you're not even doing yourself. So it's kind of hypocritical. But I finally got to the point where one of my biggest issues was with my father. And you can see that impact, you can see how that impacted every single arena of my life, not just relationships, but me trusting men in business, me even trusting women.
Interesting.
So that past pain with my father impacted every relationship that I had. And it wasn't until I dealt with that, and that was, you know, when I was 4, 5, and 6. That was way back when. It wasn't until I dealt with that that I was able to see a natural flow in the rest of my life.
So I'm fortunate to not have experienced any kind of like traumatic experience when I was a kid, right? But I know some people close to me who have had some of these things that you mentioned. Like, what's one actionable thing that you would recommend for someone dealing with these kinds of issues to move in the right direction?
The biggest thing is increasing your self-awareness. Sometimes we don't realize what is going on because we refuse to even look at ourselves because it's painful.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's painful to look and say, that hurt. We rather just put a blind eye to what happened as if it didn't happen, thinking that's going to help us. But in reality, time doesn't heal all. It only numbs unless you deal with it. And the biggest thing that I had to deal with, or that helped me overcome, because you were definitely blessed and fortunate to not have some experiences like most have. But for those who have, my biggest thing was learning who I was and learning what my value was.
Yeah.
So my past taught me indirectly. Nobody ever said you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not wanted. I never heard those words, but indirectly, that's what my story taught me. You're not loved, you're not pretty enough. You'll never succeed in the magnitude that you desire to. I had to learn who I was, and I had to get firm and say, I am good enough. It's like talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Self-affirmations.
Yeah.
I am good enough. I am strong enough. I do have what it takes. And no matter what my past has said about me, I choose to believe this new truth.
Yeah.
Even though this old truth, has a strong grip on my heart, it's not helping me. It's not helping to believe you're not good enough. It's not helping to believe that you're a failure. So just change those words and say, I am. I am, I am, I am. And the first two words of whatever you put after that is I am. It doesn't matter what you put after it. You have to know who you are.
Yeah.
And that starts with holding up the mirror and asking, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I and who am I called to be? And that kind of goes into purpose.
Yeah.
But it starts with, before you can do anything, it starts with, do you even know who you are?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really powerful to start with the baseline and really kind of accept facts and kind of like really see yourself as you really are.
Exactly.
Versus kind of sweeping things under the rug, which is my specialty. So
I'm really good at that.
So I think you kind of lightly touched on it now, and this is an interesting topic because I think some people might consider it controversial, but this idea of having a purpose, a destiny, or a calling in life, do you believe that purpose exists?
Absolutely. I do believe that purpose exists, and that's honestly what gets me going every single day, because I realize my life, this is my perspective, I realize my life is not my own. I'm living it, I am the vessel that's being utilized, but it's not about me. And the moment you realize that life is not about you, it's about the lives that you are impacting, just like you're doing with this podcast. This is what you're doing, but imagine the lives that are being touched because of it.
Yeah.
If you were just doing it for yourself, it's like, okay, well, this is great. Just come here to record on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You could be doing anything else right now,
right?
So obviously you're doing this for other people.
Right.
And that's what just life is all about. That's what purpose is all about. It's, what are you passionate about? What gets you up in the morning? What would you do if you weren't paid for it?
Yeah.
That's what your purpose is.
I'm trying to figure out the purpose of that right
now.
now.
The purpose of that is to distract us. And what we want to do is minimize distractions in your life.
So how does one go about trying to figure out what their purpose is?
I always say, look at what you are passionate about. What do you love? What are you just like, I just love doing this. Also, look at what makes you angry.
Yeah.
For me, it's when I see individuals being abused, if you want to get under my skin, just show me somebody being abused. Even if it's not a physical or a sexual abuse, if it's somebody is being mean to somebody else, bullying, I'm just like, that's not okay. And that's what gets me going. A green environment, that doesn't make me angry, but that makes somebody else angry.
Yeah, right.
And that's how I know it's not my purpose.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not important. It just means that's not what I am called to do. And so what makes you just like, I need to do something about this? Whenever you feel like somebody needs to do something about this, that's when you finally realize, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one to do something about this.
Yeah.
Right? You can't change the world, but in your arena that you have influence, you can take a stand and say, with my purpose, with my passion, I'm going to influence this sphere with whatever it is that I'm called to. It's like your calling. What are you called to do? And you know what you're called to by what you're willing to answer.
Yeah.
You may get a call from this, from this career, from this opportunity, but it's always that when I got that call, something leaped inside. It's like a baby.
Yeah.
Like I've never been pregnant. You clearly have never been pregnant. I don't think you have. I don't know. I don't want to. Maybe.
Yeah.
So it's what makes your baby leap.
Yeah.
Your proverbial baby that's inside of you. Whenever you hear that thing, whenever you hear that song, whenever you see it in the world, when you see somebody else doing it, what makes your baby leap? So like just sitting here talking to you, my baby's leaping because I just love what you're doing with this podcast, encouraging and motivating people, and that's how you know what your purpose is.
I love it.
What makes your baby leap?
So for people who aren't, because I know some people who are like, there's no such thing as purpose, or like I'm fine the way that I'm. Can you personally, like going back to the whole, like you have to experience it in order to teach it? Like have you ever, was there a part of your life when you didn't live with purpose, and what are the contrasts between the two?
Absolutely. So actually this book, Internal Navigator, is the book that came about when I realized purpose actually does matter. I wrote this book because for several years I was not walking in purpose. And this was before I even realized what purpose was. I think I was 22 or 23 when I wrote this. And around that time, you're still trying to figure out who in the world am I.
That's crazy. You have so many books.
I know. I love writing. These are my babies.
Yeah.
This is what I answer to when it comes to writing. And that's how you also know, going back to that question, it's what just naturally flows easily.
Yeah.
Writing naturally flows easy for me.
That's cool.
But there was a time where I wasn't walking in purpose, and I was stressed out. I was irritated all the time. I hated what I was doing, and I was miserable, and I'm pretty sure I was making everybody around me miserable as well.
Yeah.
So even if you don't believe in the word purpose, if you don't believe in the word calling, if you don't believe in the word destiny, it's okay. Whatever word you want to choose, you were created, you were born for a reason. And some people don't believe that, right? They're just like, I'm just here, I'm living. What one person were you sent here to touch a life? Maybe it's just that one person. I feel like if we can all get in that mindset of what one person can I help?
Yeah.
Regardless if you use the word purpose or not, it doesn't matter. We are all sent here. Regardless of who sent us, whoever you believe sent you, we're all sent here to impact other people. Because we're social beings, right? Not going into neurology, but our brains literally are social. And when we isolate ourselves, you can tell a person who's been isolated and who has been rejected by their emotional and mental state.
Yeah.
You can also tell a person who's been loved and who's been cared for and who has a social environment by their mental and emotional state. And so if you are experiencing stress and you hate what you're doing, you're probably on the wrong path.
Yeah. I love it.
We just call that, maybe you're on the wrong freeway. It's not purpose, it's your freeway.
Well, I believe it. I absolutely believe in purpose exists. And I've experienced that contrast myself. And for me, whenever I am walking in alignment, in full congruence with who I am and what I believe I should be doing, it's like I put a whole nother level of enthusiasm and energy towards my work. And it makes me feel like I am doing something for more than just me. You know?
Yes, I love it. So that brings you joy. Whatever you do also brings you joy, sense of joy.
Yes, absolutely. It becomes like a renewable source of energy. You know what I mean? Like I could do this all day long, and I have for 2.5 years. You know what I mean? So creating this podcast. So I believe it, and thank you for sharing.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, let's close with one more idea. Trillian, is I know you're passionate about speaking about self-leadership and personal development. So tell us what that is and why it's important for our viewers and listeners.
So I love doing speaking engagements. I do a lot of counseling one-on-one, but I discovered with speaking, it really allows me to reach people, multiple people at once. Of course, doing counseling, it's just one-on-one, but I knew that what I had to share, more than just one person at a time needed to hear it. I'm all about expanding my reach and getting my fingerprint in as many places as possible, because I believe in the message, right? If you have a vision and a mission you believe in, you want to share it with other people. It's not something you want to hide. It's like if you have a light, a candle, you don't just put it under a bowl. You want to show it, you want to share it. And then it's not, hey, look at my light. It's, I believe this light will bring light to your life. So it has nothing to do with me. It's allow me to shine light into your life. And I just take what I do with the self-leadership. I still do counseling, but I shifted to also now wanting to help people in the business sector, as well as just increasing leadership, because it's just like parenting. we don't call it that. We call them leaders. But essentially, their roles are just like parents. They are responsible for leading. They are responsible for guiding. They are responsible for shaping and nurturing their employees. That's the exact same role as a parent. And so I was just able to take what I do as a counselor and say, how does this apply into a leader's life?
Yeah.
How does this apply to a corporation who wants to develop a team? It's the exact same. Your team, regardless if they're children or if they're adults, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to feel connected. That's why you all have games. That's why you all have a social gathering.
Yeah.
And you do the exact same thing at home, right, with your children. Let's have game night. Let's have family night. Let's have conversations.
Let's hope that doesn't happen again before the end of this conversation.
No more.
Thanks for being a good sport about that.
I like
crazy.
it. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so with counseling, with leadership, regardless of what it is, we all essentially have the exact same needs.
Yeah.
See me, like pay attention to me when we're having a conversation. Look at me. Let me know that you're present. Hear me. Don't just talk over me. It's active listening.
Yeah.
Let me know that my voice matters. People want to know, when I speak, do you feel it has value to your life? If not, people usually shut up.
Yeah.
And then when they shut up, they end up becoming depressed because they feel like they have no outlet. And then people, thirdly, just want to be connected.
Yeah.
We want to know I'm a part of something. And for people that say, I just don't like people, I think you probably did like people at one point, but somebody hurt you, so now you don't like people.
Yeah.
So you really do like people. You just don't want to be with people.
Sure, yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what it is. We all essentially are the exact same internally. Our hearts all have the same need.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Trillian, how do people connect with you? How do they go about discovering your books? Tell us all this information and how we can connect and support you.
So I am on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, also on YouTube. I make it very, very simple for you. It's just my name, Trillian, like million, but a little bit more. Last name is Small, so at Trillian Small, or on my website, trilliansmall.com. All of these books are on there. Internal Navigator, The Caged in Heart. This one's about mental health. She's Possible and Owning Possible. If you're trying to figure out what your superpower is, these two books are for you. If you're wanting to heal from any past pain, The Caged in Heart is for you. And if you're really just trying to figure out what in the world am I here for, Internal Navigator is for you. But I can be found on social media or at trilliansmall.com.
I love it. Trillian, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Julia, for having me.
And everyone else, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pathways to Success. As always, make sure to subscribe, comment, and share. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.